Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning coffee, turning on your home computer to read the day's newspaper. Well, it's not as far-fetched as it may seem.
The history of the Internet begins with the development of electronic computers in the 1950s. Initial concepts of packet networking originated in several computer science laboratories in the United States, Great Britain, and France. The U.S. Department of Defense awarded contracts as early as the 1960s for packet network systems, including the development of ARPANET, which would become the first network to use the Internet Protocol. The first message was sent over ARPANET from the computer science professor Leonard Kleinrock's laboratory at the University of California, Los Angeles, to the second network node at Stanford Research Institute. Packet switching networks such as ARPANET, NPL network, Cyclades, Merit Network, TimeNet, and Telenet were developed in the late 1960s and early 1970s, using a variety of communication protocols. Donald Davies was the first to put theory into practice by designing a packet switch network at the National Physics Laboratory in the UK, the first of its kind in the world, and the cornerstone for UK research for almost 2 decades. Following, ARPANET further led to the development of protocols for internetworking, in which multiple separate networks could be joined into a network of networks. Access to the ARPANET was expanded in 1981 when the National Science Foundation funded the Computer Science Network. In 1982, the Internet Protocol Suite was introduced as the standard networking protocol on ARPANET. In the early 1980s, the NSF funded the establishment for national supercomputing centers at several universities and provided interconnectivity in 1986 with the NSF NET project, which also created network access to supercomputer sites in the United States from research and education organizations. Commercial Internet Service Providers, ISPs, began to emerge in the very late 1980s. The ARPANET was decommissioned in 1990. Limited private connections of parts of the Internet by officially commercial entities emerged in several American cities by the late 1989 and 1990, and the NSF NET was decommissioned in 1995, removing the last restrictions on the use of the Internet to carry on commercial traffic. In the 1980s, the work of Tim Berners-Lee in the UK on the World Wide Web theorized the fact that protocols link hypertext documents into a working system, marking the beginning of the modern Internet. Since the mid-1990s, the Internet has had a revolutionary impact on culture and commerce, including the rise of near-instant communication by electronic mail, instant messaging, voice over the Internet, telephone calls, two-way interactive video calls, and the World Wide Web with its discussion blogs, social networking, and online shopping sites. The research and education community continues to develop and use advanced networks such as NSF's Very High-Speed Backbone Network Services, Internet 2, and National Lambda Rail. Increasing amounts of data are transmitted at higher and higher speeds over fiber optic networks operating at 1 gigabyte per second, up to 10 gigabytes per second, and more. The Internet's takeover of the global communication landscape was almost instant in historical terms, as it only communicated 1% of the information flowing through two-way telecommunication networks in the year 1993, already 51% by 2000, and more than 97% of the telecommunicated information by 2007.